Have you ever heard the cue, wrap your triceps or externally rotate through the shoulders, and wondered, what does that mean? Well, it really all comes down to a muscle called serratus anterior. And it's a muscle that wraps around this portion of our body that connects our shoulder blades, our scapula, to our rib cage. And whenever we're doing something where we're weight bearing, on our hands, our arms are raised up overhead, then we want to make sure that the serratus anterior is working for us and it's doing its job of stabilizing the scapula. This creates more stability through the shoulders. It makes things like downward facing dog and handstands not only healthier, but also easier. And so by wrapping the triceps, that's just a term that yoga teachers often use to get their students to turn their arms into this external rotation. But I know when I first started yoga, I heard the term wrap your triceps and I didn't know what that meant. And I also wasn't sure what direction external rotation was, and so that's just all I want to explain in this video. So when we're talking about external rotation through the shoulders, it's how the big arm bone, the humerus here, actually sits in the shoulder joint. So this is external rotation when your arms are down. When your arms go up, this is external rotation. This arm bone here is what we're looking to turn in the shoulder joint. Obviously, with your arms just straight up over your head, if you rotate the humerus, then your lower arms probably come along for the ride. But whenever you turn upside down and your hands are down on the floor, then your hands and your lower arm stays in a more neutral or even a slightly internally rotated position. And so it's just the movement of the triceps kind of moving forward, if you like to think of it that way. I, however, prefer to use the concept of trying to bring my armpits towards each other, because on top of external rotation, we also want what's called shoulder elevation. And this is the thing that really gets especially the lower fibers of the serratus anterior to fire up and do all of that work of stabilizing your shoulder and making everything feel just so much easier, because you're actually recruiting all of the strength that is already there within you, within your shoulders. So by getting that external rotation of the humerus and pressing the shoulders up towards the ears, but without compensating with the rib cage, keeping the ribs in, you get this movement that gets the serratus anterior just doing all of the awesome things that it does. So obviously the opposite of that is what we don't want to happen, where the shoulders go down away from the ears. We internally rotate the arms, the rib cage flares out. And if we're doing something like that in like a downward facing dog, we're not putting our body in a great position, especially if we want to start kicking up to handstands or something like this. So when you're in your downward facing dog, especially really think about trying to get your armpits to face each other. Obviously, they're never going to actually get to that position. It's just that direction of movement to think about bringing the armpits as close to each other as they can to get that external rotation through the humerus, as well as pressing the shoulders up towards the ears. And you can watch my previous video on making sure that the rib cage does not do any compensation. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that whenever we externally rotate like this and we're not letting the rib cage compensate for any movement, is the latissimus dorsi, which is a big muscle that comes up the back here, actually connects into the humerus. And so by getting that external rotation, it can pull the lat a little bit tight. And so to begin with, if your lats are a little bit on the tight side, then it may just take a little bit of time to feel a bit more comfortable with that and get more of the shoulder flexion that we're looking for to get the arms straight up overhead. But if you stick with it, your downward facing dog, your puppy pose, all of these positions where the arms are up overhead, you keep the internal rotation of the elbow down, but get the external rotation of the humerus with the shoulders pressing up towards the ears and the rib cage in, you'll start to increase your range of motion as well as your strength. So I hope that's helpful for you, and you'll be thinking about your armpits or your serratus anterior, however you want to think about it. Just get the movement and get it feeling natural in your body.